So I guess this is where I'm supposed to start with some big dramatic confession about how I ruined my marriage or whatever. But between us, I'm not the bad guy in this story. I'm Mia, 32, and a year ago my husband James and I decided to open our marriage. Well, I say we decided, but I was definitely the one who brought it up first. 7 years, 2 kids, and a mortgage later, things with James were just stale. You know that feeling when you look at your husband across the dinner table and realize you've had the same conversation about his work drama for the past 3 years? I was dying inside. Literally dying. The romance was long gone. And honestly, I couldn't remember the last time I felt that rush of actually wanting him. It wasn't like I woke up one morning and thought, hey, I'm gonna suggest we sleep with other people today. It started with little comments, jokes about celebrities we'd get a hall pass for, discussing friends who were trying polyamory. Testing the waters, you know? And James would laugh it off at first, but I could tell he was thinking about it too. I mean, what guy wouldn't be intrigued by the idea of guilt-free hookups, right? We had this long, serious talk one night after the kids were in bed. I played it all mature and thoughtful, like maybe we need to explore what we're missing. And this could actually strengthen our marriage. Between us, I'd been fantasizing about this hot guy from my spin class for months and just wanted permission to act on it without blowing up my life. But I couldn't exactly say that part out loud. We set up all these rules: no falling in love, always use protection, date nights still sacred, full disclosure about who we're seeing. James looked so serious, writing these down like we were drafting a peace treaty or something. I nodded along thinking, rules are for people who can't handle freedom, but I smiled and agreed to everything. I just needed him to feel secure while I did what I wanted. I downloaded the dating apps that night. James watched me do it, then reluctantly did the same. His profile was so awkward, terrible photos, a lame bio about being ethically non-monogamous. I helped him fix it up while thinking, there's no way he's getting any matches anyway. I figured he'd try for a few weeks, strike out, and I'd get to have my fun while he stayed home with the kids. Win-win. For the first month, it played out exactly how I expected. I was lining up dates left and right, while James was sitting on the couch, swiping with this confused look on his face. Those first few hookups gave me exactly what I was missing. That excitement, feeling wanted, the rush of someone new discovering your body. I'd come home late, give James the sanitized version of my night, and he'd just nod with this forced, supportive smile. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Then came Sophia. I still remember the night James mentioned her. We were loading the dishwasher, and he casually dropped that he'd been messaging this law student and they were meeting for coffee. I was like, that's great, babe. About time, while thinking some desperate girl is actually willing to date my husband? Must be really scraping the bottom of the barrel. You should have seen his face when he came home from that first date. All lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. He was going on about how smart she was, how they talked for hours, how she was working on this fancy law degree. I kept smiling and nodding while internally rolling my eyes thinking, calm down, she probably just wants a sugar daddy to pay off her student loans. I didn't worry about it at first. I mean, look at James. Decent looking for his age, but nothing special. Works too much, hasn't seen the inside of a gym in years. And then there's Sophia. 26. From what I gathered, probably perky in all the right places. I figured she'd get bored of playing house with a 35-year-old dad of 2 within a couple weeks. But then he started seeing her regularly. Like scheduling his week around her regularly. I'd casually ask about their dates, and he'd light up talking about some intellectual whatever they discussed. Meanwhile, he never asked details about my dates unless I volunteered information. When I'd share explicit details just to get a reaction, he'd just say, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. What kind of response is that? Where was the jealousy? I hate to admit it, but I started getting curious about this girl. What made her so special? I may have looked her up online once or twice. Okay, more than twice. Her social media was exactly what you'd expect. Artsy coffee photos, law books, quotes about justice. Basic bitch central. But I couldn't stop looking at her pictures, comparing myself. She had this effortless thing going on that made me want to scream. You try looking effortless after pushing out 2 kids, sweetie. By the 3rd month of our open marriage, something felt off. This wasn't going according to plan at all. James was supposed to be home pining for me while I explored, not building a connection with some younger woman. But I wasn't worried yet. I had the home field advantage, right? I was his wife, the mother of his children. This Sophia girl was just a phase, a midlife crisis walking around in yoga pants. Looking back now, that's when things started to shift, but I was too caught up in my own fun to notice the signs. If I'd known then what was coming, well, between us, I might have handled things very differently. Things really started changing around month 4. I first noticed it when James stopped asking me about my dates. At first, I was relieved. No more pretending to care about his opinions on guys he'd never meet. But then I realized he wasn't telling me about Sophia anymore either. He'd come home late with this little smile that had nothing to do with me, and it drove me crazy. One night, after he'd been texting nonstop through dinner, I casually asked, "So how's what's her name?" Like I couldn't even remember, even though her stupid face was practically burned into my brain at that point. He got this look, like he was trying not to seem too excited, and said, "Sophia's great, actually." Then he told me she'd just won some mock trial competition at her law school. Fascinating. I wanted to say, who cares about her fake courtroom trophy? But instead I smiled and said, "That's nice," while thinking, this basic little princess has him wrapped around her finger already? Please. James just kept texting her right in front of me, staying up until 2 a.m. some nights on the phone with her. The exact same behavior he used to complain about when I did it with my dates. The hypocrisy was unreal. The real wake-up call came when I was looking for the insurance card in his wallet and found receipts. Not just coffee or dinner receipts, I'm talking expensive jewelry, concert tickets, weekend getaways. Meanwhile, when was the last time he'd bought me anything? Our anniversary was coming up, and I bet he'd get me a grocery store bouquet if I was lucky. When I confronted him about it, he didn't even have the decency to look guilty. He just said, "I thought we weren't keeping tabs on what we spend on dates." Excuse me? There's a difference between buying someone a drink and a freaking gold bracelet. But when I pointed that out, he hit me with, "When's the last time you planned something special for us, Mia?" The audacity. I take care of his children, keep his house together, and I'm supposed to plan romantic dates too? But instead of saying that, I just snapped. "Are you seriously being this dramatic right now?" He got this look. Not angry. Worse, disappointed. Then he just walked away like I was the unreasonable one. Between us, that night was the first time I felt like I might be losing control of the situation. This wasn't how open marriages were supposed to work. You have some fun on the side, but come home to your real life. Your primary relationship. Me. My hookup started feeling hollow after that. I'd be with some guy from the app, and halfway through, I'd wonder what James and Sophia were doing. Was he laughing at her jokes the way he used to laugh at mine? Was she staying overnight at his hotel when he traveled for work, sleeping on my side of the bed? I started checking his location more, texting him when I knew he was with her, making up little emergencies. "Ethan has a fever. When are you coming home?" He didn't. "The sink is leaking everywhere." It wasn't. "Your mom called and sounded upset." She hadn't. To friends, I was still playing the cool, evolved wife. "James is seeing this girl. It's cute. I'm totally fine with it. We're both adults exploring what we need right now." Meanwhile, I was secretly checking Sophia's Instagram every hour, silently critiquing everything from her vacation photos to her meal choices. "Nice power suit, honey. Trying a little hard, aren't we? And nobody believes you actually eat burgers looking like that." The kids started noticing something was off too. Our daughter Emma asked why Daddy was always smiling at his phone but never at me anymore. Out of the mouths of babes, right? I told her grown-ups sometimes have complicated feelings, while thinking, because Daddy's being a selfish jerk who's forgotten who was there for him before his shiny new toy came along. I tried recapturing his attention the ways that used to work. I bought new lingerie, suggested date nights, even cleaned his home office as a surprise. Nothing. He'd say he was too tired or has an early meeting, but then I'd hear him on the phone with her at midnight, all energy and laughs. One night I walked around the house naked and he didn't even look up from his laptop. Who does that? That's when I realized I needed to change tactics. If gentle reminders of what he had at home weren't working, maybe it was time to give him a taste of his own medicine. Two could play at whatever game he thought he was winning. But let me tell you what happened next. Nobody saw it coming, especially not James. The anniversary situation blew everything up. January 31st, our wedding anniversary, was approaching, and despite everything, I assumed James would at least acknowledge it. Last year, we'd stayed home with the kids, ordered takeout, watched a movie. Nothing fancy, but at least we were together. A week before, I casually mentioned, "So should we get a sitter for the 31st, or keep it low-key?" James looked up from his phone with this blank expression like he didn't know what I was talking about. Then he actually said, and I'm not making this up, "Oh, I already made plans with Sophia that night. She had her birthday last week, but we couldn't celebrate because I had that work deadline." I just stood there, trying to process the fact that my husband was choosing his girlfriend over our wedding anniversary. When my brain started working again, I said, "You're joking, right? It's our anniversary." He had the nerve to look confused. "We didn't do anything special last year, so I didn't think it was a big deal. We can celebrate the weekend after." Between us? I wanted to throw his phone through the window. Instead, I said very calmly, "Our wedding anniversary is more important than your girlfriend's birthday, James." That's a completely reasonable statement, right? Apparently not to James. He got this stubborn look, the same one our son gets when he doesn't want to eat vegetables, and said, "I already promised her, Mia. I can't cancel now." That's when I lost it. I'm not proud, but also, who wouldn't? I started bringing up everything. The money he spent on her, the time away from the kids, how he hadn't had sex in months because he was too tired, but never too tired for her. I might have called her some names I won't repeat. I might have thrown a coaster at the wall. James just stood there, watching me like I was some stranger having a meltdown in our kitchen. When I finally ran out of steam, he said in this eerily calm voice, "This isn't about the anniversary. You wanted an open marriage until it actually worked for me too." I started to argue, but he just walked away and shut himself in the guest bedroom, didn't even slam the door. Just a quiet click that somehow felt worse than if he'd shouted back. I spent our anniversary alone with the kids, refreshing Sophia's Instagram to see what amazing celebration he'd planned. No posts. Somehow that was even worse, like their night was too special to share online. Meanwhile, I posted a throwback wedding photo with the caption, "7 amazing years with my soulmate," that he didn't even like. That night, I lay awake realizing this little arrangement was completely backfiring. It was supposed to spice up our boring life, not replace me. Something had to change, and fast. I decided it was time to show James exactly what he was taking for granted. If he was flaunting his relationship with Sophia, why should I be discreet? Two could definitely play that game. I started leaving my phone unlocked with explicit conversations visible. I'd take calls from dates in front of him, laughing a little too loudly at their jokes. I started comparing James to my dates, not directly, but in ways he'd definitely notice. "This guy I'm seeing always holds the door for me," I'd mention casually, while James let a door swing in my face. "My date last night insisted on paying, said it was ridiculous to go Dutch when you're trying to impress someone." This, when James suggested splitting the bill during our rare dinner out. "Tyler says my new haircut makes me look 5 years younger." When James hadn't even noticed I'd gotten it cut. I'd mention how refreshing it was to be with men who weren't constantly checking their phones, or how nice it was when someone actually listens instead of waiting for their turn to talk. Little jabs I knew would hit him where it hurt. But here's the thing. James barely reacted. He'd nod or say, "That's nice," and go back to whatever he was doing. It was infuriating. I was practically waving these other men in his face, and he couldn't care less. Then I found out why. One of his coworkers, Denise, let it slip at a company picnic. After a couple glasses of wine, she said, "Sophia seems lovely. James brought her to the department dinner last week." I nearly choked on my potato salad. "Department dinner? What department dinner?" Denise got this "oh crap" look and tried to backtrack, but it was too late. James had taken Sophia to his work event, something he'd never done with any of his previous flings, and hadn't even mentioned it to me. This wasn't just dating anymore, he was integrating her into his life. His real life. I kept my composure until we got home, then confronted him. So when were you going to tell me about introducing your little girlfriend to all your coworkers? James looked surprised, then shrugged. I didn't think I needed to report every detail to you. You certainly don't tell me about everyone you meet. That's different, and you know it, I snapped. Those are just hookups. You're parading her around like she's your wife. I'm your wife. He had the nerve to laugh, not meanly, more like he was tired. Mia, this was your idea, remember? You wanted us both to be free to explore connections. That's what I'm doing. I knew I needed to see what I was up against. So I did something I'm not proud of. I manufactured a reason to crash their date. I tracked his location to this little bistro downtown, got dressed up, and just happened to show up with a work friend. James? What a coincidence. I gushed, as if I was completely surprised to see them. You should have seen this girl's face. Sophia was pretty in a natural, understated way that probably took her an hour to perfect. She wore minimal makeup, one of those casual outfits that costs way too much to look so simple. Next to her, I suddenly felt overdone, like I was trying too hard. I hated that feeling. I invited myself to their table, touching James's arm, using inside jokes, bringing up memories only we shared. I was all smiles, saying, I've heard so much about you, Sophia, while thinking, look at her squirming. Honey, did you think he wouldn't mention he has a whole family? James was clearly uncomfortable, but too polite to ask me to leave. Sophia was surprisingly gracious, asking about the kids, complimenting my earrings. Her politeness made me dislike her even more. What kind of woman is nice to her boyfriend's wife? A fake one, that's who. Later, when James confronted me at home, I played innocent. I was just being friendly. Shouldn't we all be friends in this situation? He didn't buy it for a second, but couldn't prove I'd done it deliberately. To my friends, I presented the run-in as me taking the high road. I wanted to meet her, be mature about the whole thing. Meanwhile, in my head, I marked my territory so she knows exactly whose husband she's borrowing. But my little power plays weren't working. In fact, they seemed to be pushing James further away. Our kids were picking up on the tension too. Our son Ethan started having nightmares. Emma asked me point blank one day, why does Daddy seem happier when he's leaving than when he comes home? That question hit me like a slap. I reassured her everything was fine while my mind raced. Was it true? Was he actually happier away from us? From me? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I'd given him this freedom, and instead of being grateful, he was using it to build a whole separate life. This wasn't what I signed up for. Something had to give. After months of tension and passive-aggressive warfare, I decided enough was enough. It was time for an ultimatum. I waited until the kids were asleep, poured myself some liquid courage, and cornered James in his home office. This isn't working anymore, I announced. You need to end things with Sophia. James looked up from his computer with this calm expression that made me want to scream. What brought this on? Don't play dumb. You're barely present in this family anymore. The kids notice it, I notice it. This open marriage thing was supposed to be casual fun, not whatever you're doing with her. James leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a mildly interesting problem to solve. Mia, I've been thinking about this too. You're right that something needs to change. Finally, he was seeing reason. I'm considering divorce. 4 words that made the room spin. Divorce? He couldn't be serious. Who throws away a 7-year marriage, 2 kids, a house for some fling? You can't be serious, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You'd leave your family for this temporary thing with Sophia? James sighed like he'd been holding it in for months. This isn't about Sophia, though she's shown me what a respectful relationship could look like. This is about us, Mia. We haven't been happy for years. So your solution is to blow up our family? I could hear my voice rising but couldn't stop it. What about the kids? I'd never abandon my children, he said firmly, but staying in a toxic marriage isn't good for them either. Toxic? Our marriage? I was outraged. Are you seriously choosing this girl you've known for 5 minutes over your family? James looked so tired suddenly. I'm choosing peace, Mia. My relationship with Sophia showed me what I've been missing. Someone who communicates honestly, who doesn't manipulate situations, who treats me with basic respect. I switched tactics immediately. I never even wanted this open marriage thing, I lied. I only suggested it because I thought it would make you happy. This desperate backpedaling felt pathetic even to me, but I was panicking. That's not true, and we both know it, James said quietly. You wanted this until it stopped benefiting only you. If you leave, I'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned us for a younger woman, I threatened, hating myself even as I said it. James didn't even flinch. I've documented everything, Mia. The open marriage agreement, your behavior, the times you've used the kids to manipulate me. If you want to have a custody battle, we can, but I don't think it'll go how you imagine. In that moment, I realized how thoroughly I'd miscalculated. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to have his fun and come crawling back, grateful I even let him look elsewhere. He wasn't supposed to find something better, someone better. You'll regret this, I said, because what else could I say? She'll get bored playing stepmom to someone else's kids. She's 26, James. She'll want her own family. Maybe, he said with infuriating reasonableness, but that's for us to figure out. I've already talked to a lawyer. I think it's best if I move out while we sort through the details. I'd love to tell you I handled this with dignity, but between us, I lost it. I screamed, I cried, I called him every name I could think of. I brought up every mistake he'd ever made, every sacrifice I'd ever made for him. He just stood there, taking it, until I ran out of steam. I'm sorry it came to this, he said finally. I'll sleep in the guest room until I find a place. We should tell the kids together. The weeks that followed were a blur. James moved out. We told the kids together as promised. He insisted, and suddenly I was a single mom, while my husband played house with his girlfriend across town. I told everyone a version of the story that cast me as the blindsided victim. He had a midlife crisis and left us for his 26-year-old girlfriend, I'd say, conveniently leaving out the open marriage part. I expected friends to rally around me, but reactions were mixed. Some people who I thought were my friends actually stayed in touch with James. The betrayal stung. I couldn't stop checking Sophia's social media. Every happy post felt like a personal attack. There she was at a basketball game with James. There she was with a book James had recommended. There she was with my children during James's visitation weekends, all of them looking happy and relaxed. Playing stepmom already? Those are my children, I'd think, scrolling through her posts at 2 a.m., torturing myself with each swipe. The divorce moved quickly. James was surprisingly generous with the settlement. He wanted joint custody, which I fought initially out of spite more than anything else. When the judge saw how well the kids were doing under our temporary arrangement, he made it permanent. The final blow came 6 months after our divorce was finalized. James called to tell me personally before I heard it elsewhere. He and Sophia were engaged. We're keeping it small, he said, as if that made it better. I wanted you to know because the kids are excited. I said all the right things. Congratulations, I'm happy for you. While thinking, it won't last. She'll wake up one day and realize she's tied herself to a middle-aged dad with baggage. I told everyone I was completely over it and just focused on my kids and career now. Meanwhile, I may have created a fake account to send Sophia messages. He'll do the same to you eventually. Once the novelty wears off, he gets bored. Trust me. If she got them, she never let on. Every time I saw her at kid drop-offs, she was polite, warm even. It was maddening. I wanted her to be a monster. It would be easier if she was. The hardest part was seeing how much the kids liked her. My own children, comfortable around this woman I couldn't stand. Emma asked if Sophia could help with her science project, because she's really smart about that stuff. Ethan wanted Sophia at his soccer games. Each innocent request felt like a knife. It's been a year since James first mentioned the word divorce. Our open marriage experiment lasted just 8 months, but it completely transformed our lives, just not in the way I'd imagined. Sometimes I wonder where I went wrong. If I hadn't suggested opening our marriage, would we still be together in our comfortable, boring life? If I'd been more careful about the rules, made sure James didn't get emotionally involved, if I'd paid more attention when it still mattered. But between us, I still don't think this was my fault. If James had just followed the rules and kept things casual like I did, if he hadn't gone looking for some deeper connection, we'd still be together. He's the one who changed the game. He's the one who couldn't handle an adult arrangement. And now, I'm the bad guy in everyone's story. The wife who got exactly what she asked for and lost everything in the process.